What is up, everybody? This is Brian, the Toyota guy over at Fred Anderson Toyota in Asheville. This is going to be my second time getting a chance to hang out with these new Land Cruisers, and I'm pretty excited because not only is this one a 1958, but I'm actually selling this one, so I'm pretty stoked about that. So I get just a little bit more time with it today, so I'm going to try to not be as rushed as in my last video. Granted, there's not as much equipment on this one as there was with the first edition, but either way, I'm stoked. This is definitely, if I was spending money, if I had the money to spend, let me rephrase that, I think this is what I would have, and I'll tell you why. All right, here it is, brand new 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser 1958 edition. This is awesome to see. This is our very first one of these. You can see it's actually going to be our third Land Cruiser here to the store, but this is our first 1958, and I know there's a ton of people that are curious to see what's going on with this one. Kind of like with the Camry video that I did, I think more YouTube channels are focusing on the expensive, you know, $70,000, $80,000 Land Cruisers, when most of us are kind of curious, what does the $60,000 Land Cruiser look like? And this would be a good example of that. Now, this one, I will point out, does have a tire upgrade. It's a pretty big thing that we're popular for here. I will show you on the other Land Cruiser what the factory tires look like, but this does have the Nitto Ridge Grapplers, which I think is the perfect tire. It kind of blows my mind that it's a Land Cruiser of any trim model and that it doesn't come with those Ridge Grapplers or a KO2 or KO3 or whatever they have out now. I'm kind of shocked it doesn't come with that tire. It comes with, I believe, a different type of Michelin, which is more all season, but I don't know. I guess Toyota knows their demographics, and whatever the boardroom meetings have come up with is that there's going to be probably more people on-road driving these things than off-road. And to be fair, that was the same with the last Land Cruiser also. But, you know, not everybody loves the Ridge Grappler. Not everybody loves the KO3 or KO2. So, you know, honestly, if you get the factory tires, pick out the ones you want. I love this one, though. I love the color. I'll show you on the inside, but this is, to me, like the perfect spec, especially if you are one that's planning on using this to get dirty, because you've got just enough of the off-road capabilities that you'd want out of a Land Cruiser without having to be overloaded with too much tech and too much fanciness. But you still have the round headlights as what you get on the first edition. Obviously, the main Land Cruiser has the more squared off headlights. Interestingly enough, unlike the FJ Cruisers and some of the others, the housing here you can see is a flat housing, which I'm sure they've done that because of fuel economy and wind dynamics and everything there. I thought it was going to be recessed the way that the Land Cruisers or the FJs were and the older Land Cruisers before that, but it is interesting. There is a plastic lens over on top of this light, but it does say Land Cruiser in there, which is nice. You've got LED running lights, and then of course you do have the fog lights built in as well. And even though this is a 1958, the base model, you still have like things like parking sensors, heated seats, you know, so Toyota has even made sure that, you know, with you getting a base model Land Cruiser, that you're not having to skimp out on things that you'd want. You can see this one does have the more Predator style running boards. The first edition actually has a solid piece, which doesn't have the steps on it. It's more of a rock slider. And then as we look back here, I don't think I pointed this out on the first edition, but there's a funky looking tow hitch cover that, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna say what I'm thinking because I'm sure others are thinking it as well. It looks like a diaper. It really does look like a diaper. I know that it's covering up the hitch and everything because you've got all your wiring harness and everything there. I don't know what it really looks like with this off. I don't really want to remove it because, you know, it's not mine. It might just pop off, it might screw off, I'm not sure, but kind of looks weird, honestly, but still, overall looks great. All right, so on the 1958 versus the first edition, we do still have the same split opening tailgate. Well, not split opening in the traditional sense, but it does have the split opening where the upper glass opens separate. And then once you close the upper glass, and you can see this one does not have the the extra rear view camera for the mirror. So I made a point about that on the other one where it looks like it's kind of tacked on there. And you can see with this one, it's completely free. There's no obstructions at all, minus just the normal latch assembly. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why I like this is I feel like back here it's a bit more durable in the long run. But if we close that, there is no power opening on this tailgate. Now, some people might not like that. I don't necessarily hate it, because for what it's worth, the power tailgate assembly has a lot of weight to it. And you know, even though it works well for Toyotas, it's still potentially a failure point down the road. But I would say, as far as the opening strength, you know, it's not like it's a heavy back gate or anything. You know, it's, I don't know what kind of metal it is. A lot of these cars are aluminum now, but it's not heavy, it's not cumbersome. And at least for me, being as tall as I am, I don't feel like the handle is that high. So I think for most people, it's gonna be just fine. Now you can see back here, I made this point with the first edition video, but none of the Land Cruisers in North America are gonna come with the third row seating. However, as this is a world car and they're selling it in other markets will get the third row seating. And you can see all the remnants of that on here, because you can see there's cup holders, there's phone chargers, there's all kinds of stuff. There's even the release on the back seat here to have it slide forward. I'm curious, does it slide forward? That would be kind of funny if it does. Let's see if I'm smart enough to figure this out. Oh, so it doesn't slide forward, it tumbles forward. So yeah, if you're curious, fun fact, it still does all the same seat operation of the third row Land Cruisers, even though it does not have the third row. But you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because you know, having some extra phone chargers in the back for somebody that wants to, you know, tailgate or camp, that's not a horrible thing. And you can see you do still have the phone plug, the home style plug back here. It's a 120 volt, 240 or 2400 watts. But honestly, the reason why is they've got the hybrid battery here. So this is the hybrid battery. It basically fits in the subfloor here that powers the hybrid components of this engine. So you get the extra power as well as maintaining the fuel economy. No matter where I shoot video here, there's always going to be semi trucks skewing the Jake brake. But honestly, you're not missing much with this having no third row, because if you look at it, this is a lot of room for storage, even with the little raised floor here. But if you didn't have the raised floor and you had two seats back here, it's no better than a 4Runner or the older GXs, where it would be just two tiny little seats. You know, I hate having a third row that's impossible to use. But I know some people are going to miss that, because the previous Land Cruisers had that. But this is a smaller Land Cruiser, so I'd rather have actual space that's functional. Now, looking at the inside here, there is obviously no first edition. There's no 1958. There's nothing special on the door cards. This is actually all hard plastic. There's no soft touch anywhere on here. Yeah, I mean, it's nice plastic, but you can see it's just your normal, you know, door card that you'd expect on a car. Now, this is what I was excited to see in person. So 1958s do not come with leather seats. I think everybody knows that. If not, now you do. But this is basically the same type of seat fabric as what they do in the Toyota Crown. And it's very similar to what they're now doing in the fabric versions of the Camrys as well. So I feel like this is the direction that all the newer Toyotas are going, which is, if you're gonna have a cloth interior, they are giving us a much more premium cloth or fabric than what we've had in the past. It looks a lot more like, it looks like it has like cross stitching in it. It feels very much like a quilted pattern. It's just so much more premium. And as I just got out of selling a RAV4 that had leather seats, and my legs were sweating by the time I got out of it, if you're planning on being anywhere using this in the summer weather, I think having the cloth is a nice thing, because it's going to keep you cooler. Now, obviously what sucks is if you're getting, you know, wet or, you know, whatever, you lose a little bit of that premium touch of having the leather. But now that I'm sitting back here, I don't think I got a chance to do this in the other Land Cruiser, but I would say leg room and feet room is adequate. I am a size 12 shoe, and there's plenty of room for my feet, both underneath and behind the chair. My legs, this chair is pretty much all the way back in front of me, and I've got pretty good leg room here. Again, for 6'3", it's not a ton of room. Like a Sequoia or a Grand Highlander certainly has more leg room. I would basically say this is the same interior feeling as far as the backseat space as a 4Runner with even the previous generation. Now, because this is the Land Cruiser, you do have the third row air, which I think is great. So just like on all the Toyota models before, you've got air vents along the ceiling, even the third row, you know, which doesn't exist, of course. You do have down here multitudes of charging situations. So you've got the USB-C here, as well as the 12 volt like bullet style, which I do find unique because That means you could run any kind of accessories off that outside of just the USB-C. So maybe if you want to like recharge a GoPro camera or like run a laptop or something, you just run the little adapter and you're good to go. But you can see there actually is a map pocket on both seats, which, you know, is strange to point out, but in some cars, even Toyotas, they only give you one map pocket, and it's usually the one behind the driver's side. So interestingly enough, there's good storage there. You've got cup holders in the door. You can see there's kind of two. I don't think these are going to fit like a Hydro Flask or anything large like that, but certainly a Gatorade bottle would fit. And then of course you do still have a traditional flip down armrest here with normal sized cups. And again, honestly, I think it's pretty comfortable back here. Is it luxurious? No. But is it working and work fine? Yeah, I think it's great. Let's go check out the front now. All right, we are now up in the front seat of the 1958, and there's a lot of stuff that's the same, and there's obviously a lot of things that are different, right? So the stuff that is the same is you still obviously have auto climate control for both the first and second row seating. You do still have your heated seats, which is still a nice option to have. And I do not see the heated steering wheel. So it does have the leather wrap steering wheel. If I remember right from my last video, I think that was the heated steering wheel button. So you do get the same feel on the steering wheel, but you're just not gonna have the heated steering wheel in the winter time. This one specifically does not have the wireless phone charger. There might be an option for it. I don't know every single package on these, and I'm sorry. But there is still a tray where you can set a phone or pens or change or whatever you wanna have, but no wireless phone charger there. They do now have all 3 USB-C ports up here. This one's gonna be the main one for your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto if you wanna do wired. And then of course there's your USB-C fast charging. This one does not have the cool box that the other one had. So you can basically see the size of the center console as it currently is. There is a piece of paper I can use as a reference here. So this is a folder, and just a 8.5 by 11 folder. You can see it's probably about 9 inches or so long and probably about 6 inches or so wide, but still a nice deep center console. There are no phone chargers in here, which I think makes sense because they've got the phone chargers set up on the dashboard now. But that's what it looks like without that. Now you do still have your full-time 4-wheel drive system here, which you can see it's always in, so it's going to disengage the front wheels as it needs to. Same as what they've had on limited 4Runners and the GXs and all kinds of Toyotas now for a few years. But you do still have, you don't have the sway bar disconnect. So it's one thing you don't have here, unfortunately, but you do still have your center diff and your rear diff lock. But still, this has been a staple on the Land Cruisers now for a long time. You know, there was even some that I think were like triple lock with like a front locking diff, if I'm not mistaken, as well in the old ones. But it's nice that still, even in the base model, you get the full-time 4-wheel drive, which I think works great. You get the rear locker, you get the center locker. You know, even if you don't have the sway bar disconnect, I don't think too many people are going to miss that. Again, I don't think too many people are going to take this off-road, honestly, at least where you're going to need the sway bars disconnected. So looking at the screen, this, of course, is the smaller screen. You can see we have these little bezels here that surround the left and right. This is, I believe, an 8-inch diameter screen, give or take. And this is the same as every other Toyota. I'll give Toyota credit. They've gotten really good at being able to reuse some of their parts from one car into many. So like it or hate it, this is the system. I think it does work great. It's really responsive on the touchscreen. Anytime you have anything with the blacks on here, I think it actually has really good color definition. It's bright enough in the daytime. The backup camera is pretty sharp on there. Interestingly enough, this does not have, I hate Toyota for this, does not have the turn lines where the backup lines move. I don't know why they choose to make that a software option for some cars, but regardless, you know, everything there works as you'd expect it to. There are no extra switches up here. There are no extra switches down here. You know, I believe the other one, I forget, I think they were over here, had some aux panel switches that you could wire extra lights and stuff to. You have the blanks, of course, so you have to run your own wires down the road if you want to do something. But everything else here, the downhill assist, the crawl control mode, the drive mode buttons, which is also, well, this, let's see what we have here. So you've got your sport, normal, and eco. If we, interestingly enough, this does not have the trail modes like the other one did. It does have this ECT mode, which is kind of funny because you can see now it says ECT second And it looks like what that's doing is, in the old automatic Toyotas, there's always been this ECT button, which is like extra power that the engine and transmission is supposed to give you in certain conditions. Although I'm pretty sure most people don't actually ever feel any difference to it whatsoever. But it looks like when you put this on, it says second start. So I'm guessing that means instead of it starting in first gear, you can start in second gear and have a different gear ratio if you're trying to crawl up something. But yeah, interestingly enough, the drive mode doesn't do anything different. There's no trail mode, there's no rock, dirt, sand, all that. There's no multi-terrain selector is what I'm trying to say. But the downhill assist mode, that is on here, as well as the crawl control, which is why I get back to saying I think this is enough Land Cruiser for most people. Certainly, this would be more than enough Land Cruiser for me. Even if I had $70,000 or $80,000, I'm pretty sure I would buy this one and pocket the extra money, right? That's just me. Now over here, this is a smaller display here also. So in the larger display, you can have kind of 3 bits of information across. Here, this is a more traditional display. So if you've been in a Toyota, these icons are all the same, where you've got like different, like your audio, different drive info, compass, adaptive cruise, fuel economy, different kinds of drive info that you might want to see while you're going down the road, gauge cluster settings, all that stuff is here. But in this case, you only have the one option, which is this. You can't have 3 different bits of information spread across because you've got your temp gauge and your fuel gauge on here. Let me go down to the meter settings. I am curious to see something. So let's go over to here and see what options we've got. So there's your parking sensors, there's your road sign detection. Let's go into the meter settings, because right now you've got this meter style. Let's see what happens. So yeah, this is the same on the new Tacomas. So this is the smart meter, as they call it. If you change it to tough, you can see it kind of gives it this gear. If we go to sporty, let's see what that does. All right, so it just kind of looks like a more traditional RPM gauge. Let's go back to smart. We'll keep it back where it was. And then what is this? Let's go to dial type. Oh, nice. So you can have the tachometer. You can change it for the speedometer. I believe the new Tacomas are like this as well. Off. Oh yeah, look at that. That's kind of neat. So if you just want to have a nice clean look, you can actually do it like that. So that's kind of nice to see. I'll go back to the tachometer. It's where it was before. So you can see you've got your digital speed there in the center. What happens when you go to speedometer? Yeah, it still has both. So kind of neat. There's some ways to kind of customize this. I imagine we're going to see the same screen setup for the 4Runners that are coming out, and possibly other Toyotas, maybe even the Grand Highlanders and stuff in the future as well. Now looking at the safety tech, this is standard across the board, of course, for Toyota now. But you've got your adaptive cruise, which you can now select. So you can go into your regular cruise control or adaptive cruise. They've had that for a few years now, but if you're for some reason not trusting of the adaptive cruise system, you can go back to the traditional style. This is for your lane departure, your lane centering system there, and then of course you can adjust your following distance of the adaptive cruise here. Everything else here is your multimedia buttons. This controls the screen there. That's for Bluetooth answering. That's for triggering the hands-free device, changing songs, normal things here. You do have, there's your parking sensors. There's how to turn on that rear plug that we saw in the back cargo area. And then this still has the trailer brake control with the tow haul mode. That's also here on the dashboard. All right, so here's the 58. And here is another first edition, and you can kind of see side by side just a couple of the small differences. Now, interestingly enough, man, somebody else said it in one of the comments on my other video, I'm not a huge fan of the first edition wheels. Maybe I should be, maybe they're gonna grow on me. I almost feel like I like the wheels on the 58 better. It's almost the same style. You can see it's got a split spoke, and this is a single spoke. But I don't know, it just looks weird. I mean, the tires, now that I look at these, they really aren't that bad. It's a Michelin LTX Trail, and really from the side profile, there's no side lugs. It doesn't really look that gnarly, but honestly, the tread is fine. I mean, honestly, for most people, it's gonna do great. You can see it's a 480 tread wear, so they're not gonna last that long. But, you can just see the difference of what a Meteor tire does. Honestly, I'm a BF Goodrich fanboy. I've got an FJ Cruiser and a 4Runner with the KO2s on it. So that'd be my tire of choice, but I know the Ridge Grapplers are a pretty good tire as well. Same as the Wild Peaks. Kind of looking at the differences, you can see the Land Cruiser First Edition has got these painted front panels. whereas over here you have the flat unpainted plastic everywhere. So a couple different visual differences. And then of course, I didn't point this out, there's no roof rack at all on the 58. I'm sure there are accessory options from Toyota, and I'm sure there will be plenty aftermarket, versus you get the more like TRD Pro style flat roof rack is on here. Of course, it's an option, but most of our first editions that I've seen so far are getting the two-tone roof versus the solid panel on the top, where it's the same body color. But I mean, I think it looks great either way. This obviously is a throwback to some of the older FJ Cruisers and Land Cruisers, but I mean, it's really preference of what you like. There's some gloss black on the mirrors here versus, again, the flat black over here. So certainly, you know, what you'd expect on the 58. But, you know, for the huge price difference, man, don't get me wrong, I love that. And if you put it in blue, I'm probably going to change my opinion on it. But in my mind, this is it right here. And I'll show you the window sticker because then everybody wants to look at it. So you can see this is the 1958. You can see they call it Brown Sugar Metallic, which is kind of a funny name. I'm pretty sure there's a different name for it actually. Either way, but Brown Sugar Metallic is on there with the black interior. There's the iForce Max with the 4-cylinder turbo. MSRP before any port or packages or options here, you can see it's $55,900 as delivered, with the Ridge Grapplers being one of the large items on there. I didn't really point it out, but this one does have the dash cam. That was something that my customer was looking for. You've got the all-weather cargo mats, the dash cam, a few other things, door edge guards, the paint protection film, the Predator drop step, which is obviously not standard on this one. So as delivered, you can see this one is $63,234. And just to kind of show you that compared to the first edition, you can see right there the difference is $76,000 on the window sticker. So, you know, is the price difference worth it? I don't know. I mean, that's like $13,000 as delivered on both of these, between one and the other. To me, that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, you get it. You're getting what you're paying for on that other one for sure. And it's still a lot less than the Heritage Edition that sold before. But if you ask me, I think this is the one you're gonna see more often than not. All right, so I think that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I think that I've covered a few more details on the Land Cruiser that I might have missed on the previous one. But I mean, this is only the second time I've been in a Land Cruiser. I've watched a lot of the same videos that are online for others, and I've tried to read up on all the materials. I'm sure there's something that I've missed, and for all I know, I probably misspoke somewhere along the way as well. So if you made it this far in the video, thanks so much for watching. It's really exciting to kind of watch this channel grow, and I really love it when I get the comments from everybody. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think about this. There's some very passionate people for or against the first edition Land Cruiser, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of passionate people for or against this one as well. Everybody's freaking out about it being a turbo 4-cylinder and it's going to be unreliable and all this kind of stuff, which I don't think is going to be the case, honestly. But as always, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.